Welcome back to Copper Star Precision, the channel dedicated to getting you more points at your competitive shooting matches. Today we're going over the NRL22 November 2023 course of fire. This is the fifth and final stage in the booklet called Gobble till you wobble. 10-round stage, 120 seconds on the 55-gallon drum with a little bit of a caveat. This is going to be a very difficult stage in terms of the movement, but let's talk about how we can mitigate those factors, hopefully getting you the most points possible. The stage description is as follows. On the start signal, you'll take a position on the prop and engage the targets in the following fashion. Left target, back to start position, right target, back to start position, left target, etc. Start position means standing with all rifle and all gear in hand 3 feet back before stepping forward and establishing the next shooting position. You will continue this pattern for a total of 10 shots or until time expires. So we're breaking and resetting the position every single time. That's going to be a little bit of a challenge. We have 10 shots. That means you have basically 12 seconds per shot in order to establish a position, find the target, engage the target, and then break the position. You have another 12 seconds, so you can think about it that way. There's a couple different ways to run this stage. 55-gallon drum, everyone knows who's been watching this channel, I'm a fan of 2 points of contact. Here, it may be a little bit more difficult to manage like 2 things on the clock, kind of getting the front of the bipod set up and the rear bag, so you might want to just opt for a single bag solution. Plop that down. It gives you a little bit more leeway in terms of, it's not as complicated to just drop a bag down as it is to make sure that the bipod kind of sits on the drum as well as getting the rear bag. But for me, stability rules out. Now let's talk about the targets. We have 2 targets. They are supposed to be 30 yards apart. And they're both 2.5 inches at 70 yards. Now this poses another problem, which I don't think a lot of people talk about. But when we talk about angles and that kind of stuff, it depends how those targets are ranged. So maybe I'll pop up some diagrams over here, but essentially, is a target 70 yards in one direction from the barrel, or is it 70 yards to the firing line? Because if it's measured 70 yards to the firing line, then depending on where those targets are set up, we could have a pretty somewhat of a variance when it comes to what the actual distance is. So this is a stage I recommend if you have someone at the match or in the squad, maybe even after the safety briefing or stuff, and the targets are set up, have someone with a laser rangefinder or something verify the targets from the prop itself. Because let's say if it's 70 yards from the target, that's one thing, then it's 70 yards. But let's say that it's 70 yards from the firing line. So if straight down range is this way, and the targets are exactly 15 yards apart for 30 yards total. Essentially, the hypotenuse of that triangle is basically like 71 yards. That shouldn't make too much of a difference. But in the case where, let's say one target is directly in front of you, and then the other target is 30 yards to the right or to the left, the hypotenuse of that triangle, I think, is like 76 yards. So that being the case, for me, the difference between 70 and 76 yards in my dope is 0.2 of a mil. So that's something to think about, depending on where the targets are located and how they're ranged. If they're ranged to the firing line, you're actually shooting on the hypotenuse of whatever triangle it makes between the perpendicular line between the target and the firing line and you on the barrel. So this is one of those ones you definitely want to verify the ranges, because 1 or 2/10 could throw you off the target if you're not super stable or if you make a bad wind call. You definitely want to be centered up and know the exact distances on that target. That was a really long-winded way of saying that, but because the targets are so far apart, we kind of run into this issue on this stage. So just make sure that these targets are ranged appropriately and you at least know what's going on. But in an ideal scenario, it would just be 70 yards from the bucket, the way the crow flies. In that case, you just have to dial once, set parallax once, and you're good to go. Okay, that was long-winded, but an important point to make. Now, like I said, 2 points of contact is what I like to do. And let's say that this shooting mat is, let's say it's 3 feet wide. So I'm gonna have to start back here, and then I'm gonna have to reset, which probably does not mean break the rifle and then like lean back. It's probably gonna be all gear, both feet behind the 3-foot line. So let's talk about getting in and out of positions quickly. So we're starting on the left target. So I'm 3 feet behind the line, timer goes off. I'm gonna put this down, put this here, find the left target, straight up, and engage. And then we have to break this position, back off, right target, I'm exaggerating the left to right. It shouldn't be this far apart, but you get the idea. Engage. So this is actually a really great drill. I mean, it sounds straightforward, but doing it on the clock can be challenging. So, you know, put a Post-it note on the wall, and with an unloaded rifle, of course, if you have a 55-gallon drum or even just like a table, starting 3 feet behind a table or whatever you use, see how fast you can get in position, put the rifle down, get on the scope. Finding the target is one thing, which would be hard to do, hard to practice, but you know, just getting a stable position and then engaging a shot. You have to be able to do that in basically 12 seconds or less for this stage. So it's definitely a great drill stage. This is definitely something that I'd probably, actually something like this stage would be something I'd want to do in like my live fire practice, because it is good because you're breaking the position each time. You know, normally we just sit on the barrel and then we just move left to right, but breaking the position. Again, here I hold my rifle by kind of my scope and bag in the left hand like this. So, you know, you don't want to be fumbling around. So yeah, it's just simple. Put it down, bag down, find the target, engage, break the position. So basically it's like 10 one-round stages in a row. Think of it that way. So think about starting position. Again, when you're starting the stage on the left target, basically I keep my rifle kind of on my thigh, holding it by the scope here. I'm basically looking at the tip of my rifle and making sure it's in line with that first target. So I'm looking down the tip. The tip is basically pointing the line to the first target. So when I go to put this down, I'm right there, or at least in the general vicinity. Because target acquisition is kind of the name of the game for this stage, I do recommend a lower magnification power, maybe something around in between 12 and let's say 15 or 16. So I'd probably be on like 12 power on this stage. Get that wider field of view so I can find the targets faster, because time is definitely going to be of the essence on this stage. If you want to use the one bag solution, that's fine too. You would simply just bring a bag with you. Similar story. Rifle's on the thigh at the start of the stage, pointed at the first target on the left. Timer goes beep, drop, drop. For me, this is a high kneel position. Find the target. That's super quick, but then I have to get up off my knees, basically reset. Maybe 2 knees down here, but see, if I'm in a kneeling position like this, getting up and down off my knees and then back down on the knees, it's gonna get old real quick. So that's why I kind of prefer the 2 points of contact, because it lets me put the bipod a little higher, which gives me a standing position. If you have like a huge bag, actually, like one of those big pump pillows, you know, much bigger than this, I could see someone simply just throwing the giant bag here. Let's say you could stand. Imagine this bag was twice as big. It'd be kind of funny to see like someone do this where they could stand. But then that would prevent you from having to get on your knees for the shot. So if you are someone who has problems with their knees and you don't like the bipod rear bag approach, see if someone has one of those big fat bags and then stand that up here. And the rifle's basically at standing height then. That'd be kind of funny. And usually those things are pretty light, so it's just a matter of grabbing and then taking it off and then plopping it back down. Might be a little bit too much gear to manage on the clock, but definitely another option. So hopefully I provided you with some guidance onto what you may be interested in trying on this stage. Let me know what you're gonna do down in the comments. And this is the last video for this week when it comes to match coverage. I should have a video coming out soon with footage from the match, which will be this Sunday for me. So make sure you're subscribed, notifications enabled, to see if all this stuff that I blab about actually works in practice. That being said, thank you for being here. I appreciate all the support. And until I see you next time, as always, score more points.